Hello there, I'm Alistair Gunn from the Glasgow City Innovation District team, and we'd like to thank all of you for joining us today at our first Made in Glasgow virtual event. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. It's great to have you on board, and we look forward to meeting all of you in person at some point in the future. Before I introduce you to each of our speakers today, for those of you who do not know much about the Glasgow City Innovation District, the district was created as Scotland's first, or very much innovation district back in 2019, and is Glasgow's hub of entrepreneurship, innovation, and collaboration. It was created in partnership with Scottish Enterprise, Glasgow City Council, Entrepreneurial Scotland, the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, and also Strathclyde University, and supports the growth of 6 industry clusters, including fintech, 5G, quantum, industrial informatics, space, and health tech. If anyone is interested in being part of Glasgow's tech and digital community, feel free to leave a message in the Q&A function below. You will also have noticed when you first registered for the event that we are also hosting our first office hours session this coming Monday. We set these sessions up to provide everyone with access to expert help to support the growth of their tech or digital business. We have 2 slots left, so if interested, please do register your business, and we look forward to see you next week. Today's session is being recorded, so if you want to have the opportunity of looking back at today's session, the webinar will be on our website at some point over the next couple of weeks. Today we will be taking questions throughout the webinar, so please do post those in the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Worth noting that for this session today, our chat function has been disabled. So that nicely takes us on to the main part of today's webinar, which is titled Digitising for Growth. When planning the topic for our first session today, we recognised the value which digitisation has delivered to many companies during lockdown, and in many cases has led to businesses pivoting their business model and becoming more resilient. Even this morning, I received an insight into how businesses are innovating in days and not years. However, we are aware that digitisation is an ongoing process and also impacts all aspects of a business's operation. One of the key aims emerging from Glasgow's digital strategy is for businesses across all sectors to realise their full potential through the adoption of digital service delivery. Both our speakers today will be talking about the approaches that their companies have taken to developing their own digital strategy, and will also provide insight into how they are driving growth for themselves and their clients through digital product development and digital innovation. The format for our sessions today is going to be a fireside chat. It's going to be quite informal, and it's great to welcome both David Johnson from After Digital and Martin Jordan from Equator. It's great to have both of you, joining us for our session today. And for those of you who may not have heard of After Digital or Equator before, both businesses were founded in Glasgow, and that's no hint to the title of our session, Made in Glasgow. And both are award-winning. And also, both are members of BIMA in the UK. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
So, let's kick off things. First turning to yourself, David. Many companies who may have started out as digital service business may wish to enhance their kind of business model by developing kind of digital products. So what kind of prompted your own business to kind of explore the shift to developing kind of digital products? And what was your journey from service towards business?
Yeah, I guess the journey really started with my introduction to the whole world of digital agencies in Glasgow, which is coming up on 17 years now. I've been working in within digital agencies. So through that time with a few different companies, just seeing how kind of digital had grown, and obviously back 17 years ago, digital is kind of old now, but obviously back then it was all very new, and it was very much focused around services, and at the time when I entered into the sort of world of it, it was all about design, development, and very early stage kind of digital marketing, but very much kind of service driven. And I think my business after digital will be 5 years old come January. I think a lot of the experience and learnings from good and bad from a time in various different companies were kind of brought to bear on after digital. I think what I'd seen was as the market matured and more players kind of entered into it, and perhaps the barrier to entry for web design and development got less. I found that in terms of from a service perspective, competing against everyone for every bit of business was becoming a bit of a race to the bottom. Who could do it cheapest, and trying to kind of show the value in that, I could understand was quite hard from a client's perspective to differentiate. So I suppose to really answer your question in terms of what kicked it off, I think it was for us to be known for something, to have an identity, and also to be specialist. So I think to be specialist in an area, obviously kind of backed up that idea of what are we known for. I think having grown up in the sort of Glasgow agency world, I was really desperate to not be fighting over work in Glasgow or Scotland or even the UK. So there was a real drive to be an international business. I think years of being involved, I should say, even though I did a software development at university, I quite quickly realised that I wasn't cut out to be a developer. And my kind of interaction in the digital world has all been around kind of business development and marketing. So I think having been at the forefront of that, from business development manager to commercial director, certainly in my business, I really didn't want a business that was reliant on new business, and I was looking for more a kind of recurring revenue model, so retainers, some sort of kind of SaaS type aspect. And so those were the key drivers.
And some of that, obviously, you're talking about those kind of, again, if you're a company that's kind of, setting out, even, we've seen this, in the last couple of years when you've been companies who may have been website development and then kind of shifted into app development, or even companies who've kind of created from an app perspective at the very, very beginning, that kind of competitiveness, and are you seeing that kind of, obviously that competitiveness, is that again one of the kind of key things that kind of shifted your business to start looking at kind of digital products?
Yeah, I think one of the things you'd mentioned before this was what brands do we work with, have we worked with, and I think to look back, we worked with the largest Holiday Inn franchise in the UK, to EDF Energy, to Deliveroo, to universities, to all sorts. And I think for me, it was really looking at where we had a lot of traction and where we were good at, and where we could focus a lot of our sales and marketing efforts, so as not to be diluting the kind of message. And I think you're right. The move from agencies into kind of app development's obviously been one, and also to kind of look at what they've. I think within agency land and service, the kind of holy grail is trying to kind of find this kind of replicable or kind of reusable, whether it's in development or whatever. Yeah. And I think it shouldn't be, profit shouldn't be the main driver in a business, but I think when you can do things a lot more efficiently, and not be reinventing the wheel, but still provide that expertise and sort of maybe even the kind of background knowledge, but customization, I think It's important that as a business matures, you do that. I can completely understand that when businesses start up and you know they're new, of course you take what way you can get it, and you know, over a period of time, little clusters or clumps of clients develop maybe in sectors, and then it's then looking at, you know, are those ones that you could kind of mine into more.
You know, I mean, so that kind of, you know, so, and again, you know, for quite a few of our companies they're obviously, that, you know, are kind of on today. I mean, some of them probably, or could, or may not be kind of, you know, kind of digital first, and obviously kind of starting to explore that. But let's kind of talking a bit more about, you know, the kind of, you know, when you moved into that kind of digital and kind of, obviously kind of product development, you know, what kind of skill sets, what did that, you know, from an operational perspective, what kind of impact did that have? Did you have to kind of start outsourcing that work, or did you have to start kind of developing it in-house?
Well, it's a good and it's a kind of timely question, because a few weeks ago we did our project retrospective on our product development. Easy for me to say this time, and a lot of that was looking, I mean, we're supposed to jump back as a full service digital agency. You know, we did have you know, the project management, marketing, design and development skills in-house. Although at that time, it was, you know, one of the guys in the retrospective used, you know, we didn't know where the peak of the mountain was. And actually through the journey, luckily to have you know, I suppose that term, the right people on the bus that were able to pick up and learn the skills. We thought we knew what we needed at the beginning of this. And unfortunately, I couldn't just kind of shut the business for 6 months, plough a load of money into it, and then have a product at the end of it. Really, the existing service business had to support what we were trying to do with the product. And also, just worth a worthwhile mention that Scottish Enterprise played a big part in helping support us sort of bankroll that. It was a mixture of what clients were paying for, what the business could support in terms of, you know, reinvestment of profits in Scottish Enterprise. So yeah, at the beginning we kind of knew we had the sort of the core skill sets and you know, the right teams, but 12 months later, looking back, you know, you didn't know what you know, we just couldn't know. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer. And one of the things one of the things that came out of the retrospective is we just, you know, even looking back now, I think the only way we could have done it is the way that we did it, certainly, because we weren't looking to get outside investment in that respect. So yeah, the skill sets evolved as we went through the process.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, that's the thing again, you know, for companies who, I mean, again, who obviously are self-funding themselves, you know, through existing kind of sales, you know, even kind of shifting towards, you know, I mean, did you shift, you know, towards more of or getting that investment from an equity perspective, or was it more from a grant, you know, to kind of help move you, you know, into that?
It was an innovation grant, because we kind of ticked some boxes, and obviously, you know, high value jobs, but also the international element of our product, or what it was going to be. And the focus for us was in working with some of the leading kind of arts, culture and entertainment businesses and organisations across the globe. So we'd already, through the kind of the work that we'd been doing, had managed to get some clients in that space, but we obviously realised that we were doing a lot of things time and time again. Actually, we could save money, save time, eliminate some risk for our clients. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, the timing was just right in terms of 2 or 3 big client wins that could in some way kind of help shape the product development. The business, after 3 or 4 years, had been doing quite well. So, you know, a choice to invest some of the profits into that. And then Scottish Enterprise being able to, you know, part subsidise some of that.
Yes, yeah.
And because we could do it internally, you know, we didn't have to outsource. That probably made it feel a little bit more of a safer bet for me as well.
And one of the things which, I mean, you were talking about, you know, again, you know, for many businesses, we all kind of work within, you know, we're either working in a particular kind of cluster or a particular kind of market sector. And I mean, and again, that's, you know, one of the things, I guess, from the service side, it kind of gives you that insight to work, you know, with the clients, right? Because so One of the things which I know you also kind of have evolved into is the kind of area of digital transformation. And I know that's kind of a kind of buzzword these days. And certainly it's one of those that are going, okay, what's that? What does that mean? Yeah. Is it software development? But again, no, because one of the things we talked about before was obviously that kind of digital strategy. So, on the kind of journey when you're working, with clients, are you spending more time with the client before they purchase a product, or because again, sometimes we may have you may be a business who's just trying to sell your product straight in. But is there a secret to be helping from a consultancy perspective with the client?
I mean, yeah, digital transformation is one of those words that mean many different things to many people, and actually the term digital transformation we don't really like, because it suggests that there's a kind of an end state, where really for us it's kind of digital evolution, and it should continue to be that. I guess where it came from for us was a real want and need to be, going back to that new business perspective, we wanted long-term partnerships and not quick ad hoc projects, and I think even at the moment, we're walking the corridors virtually with our clients. I think it was to really understand them better, so that we could add more value, an element of thinking for them, but probably more thinking together. So having that kind of long-term partnership sort of view, then with kind of talented people within the business who could then kind of grasp what that client was trying to achieve. So really trying to become more kind of closely aligned and intrinsic part of their business, and just kind of like dovetailing in and fitting where we were needed. But the digital part, interestingly, more often than not, it's became more of a kind of mindset thing than actually what people consider, fitting out a website or a new CRM or something else. It's been more about the business being willing to kind of think and change and adapt in that digital way.
And I think it's a good point, because sometimes as businesses, if we're even if internally, if we're starting to look at that, we kind of go straight to the kind of solution. Is it HubSpot that we need to implement, or the tool that needs to be kind of implemented? But I guess that there's a stage before that, and that is there's a level of, I guess, simply what is the thing that you want to try and achieve, kind of breaking that down into kind of the kind of basic steps. So what kind of, when you're working with clients, what are the kind of if you're working with some of your clients who I wouldn't say I've got that level of digital expertise, what can how do you help them on that journey?
Yeah, and that's probably one of the biggest things that kind of it was the light bulb moment for us, and I think fundamentally it was helping kind of join up that thinking, and instead of just requesting something in isolation, actually thinking about what impact that has across the organisation. I think a big part of it's also helping our clients kind of make money and save money. And I remember, I won't name the name, but a client of ours, we'd had a chat and we spoke about what was a kind of roadmap for becoming a more digitally focused organisation. Mm-hmm. And no disrespect to maybe any IT people or IT departments on the call, but she said it was a wish list of things that IT wanted to buy, and then we said, well, wait a minute, like why and how's that going to actually work across the organisation? Yeah. So it meant kind of like actually stepping back and actually saying, well, it's all well and good saying here's all the things we want to do, but actually in terms of the people who might have to use them, in terms of the actual benefit to the organisation, in terms of can they talk to each other, where are the savings? And so as much as it can sometimes feel as like stopping or going backwards to go forward, it's what we've seen from our experience that ultimately we allow clients to get more bang for their buck, I suppose, what they're doing digitally. So it's not just saying, here's something that one department wants, we'll give it to them, here's something another. It's thinking about it in a kind of more holistic fashion. And to your point about how do we help clients, I think whether you want to call it strategy, transformation or evolution, it's taking that old kind of strategy idea, but actually being creating a roadmap and a kind of guide to be there, side by side with the client, and to also to be held accountable for the recommendations that we make. It's certainly not fire and forget. It's certainly not print and put on the shelf. It's we want to be there.
So one of the things, so obviously kind of moving, towards today, you're now you've developed kind of digital platforms, but there are two kind of market sectors that you're kind of focusing in on, or obviously have developed, and that's the arts and education. And I mean, these are, I would say, certainly both those, and certainly the arts sector at the moment, especially through the kind of lockdown and globally. And again, you're a global business. You are selling internationally to other companies. What are you seeing? What the challenges are you seeing? From that sector? Have you started to see a greater demand for your platform?
I suppose there's two things, and kind of why we wanted, just for some of the people out there who may be thinking about going product. I think, like everybody, we've been impacted, and obviously, like arts and culture is a key sector. It's obviously been impacted, but I think for me, having the first iteration of the product and now the new one was actually, like, through COVID, we've seen the value of having that recurring revenue and people tied into our platform. So there was at least a bit of stability there. Obviously, in arts, we've seen, I suppose, a pause initially, like a lot of people did, March and April. But then the relationships we have with a lot of our sort of long-term clients have seen a lot of opportunity within, and perhaps, operational budgets have been cut, but it's a time to then look at how, when they come out of this, can they be more efficient? Can they actually, we've seen accelerated kind of growth towards kind of digital and actually thinking a bit differently. So the platform for us, just before lockdown, we launched the South Bank Centre, using the platform, their new purchase path. And then in amongst the lockdown, we launched Honolulu Museum, their new entire digital platform, and they were super keen to get that out there in the open as quickly as possible, because they saw the value in making donations and memberships far more slicker and easier to do. So we're hoping that the product, because it's not quite plug and play, shall we say, there's an element of pairing that as things start to kind of move forward, the fact that we have something that can be deployed quite quickly, and it's just something that's been spun up that day. What we're hoping, it's the right timing to have a product that can be deployed pretty quick. And
just conform, we kind of shift over to kind of Martin. Some of our audience today, as I say, will be thinking about moving towards that kind of, if they don't have the skill sets within their business, what approach. And it's one of the things which we've seen with, certainly I've seen over the last couple of years, is we're starting to see a lot of non-digital or non-native companies kind of looking to kind of develop. If they're looking to kind of, build that skill set or outsource that, what's the one person that they need to employ in their business to kind of help them? Should they do it themselves? Because I know that sometimes that if they don't know how to approach the development, it may be better to actually have somebody as an advisor or consultant at the beginning to help them scope it out.
Yeah, and that's kind of set up for kind of a bit of a sales plug, but also for Martin and Equator. I think that you mentioned consultancy. We don't really like that word either, because actually where we've came from is a place of being practitioners. So we still do design, development, build our own product and stuff. So it's finding somebody who that kind of mixture of are still at the coalface and are still actually doing it and understand the challenges that you might face, but then also having the kind of wherewithal and the smarts to kind of help guide you along. So whether that's an individual, an agency, a business, there are, there's, and I suppose the chat that we might have later on is about agencies are called agencies, but we are businesses in our own right, and it's finding, I think, that not just somebody who'll sit and listen and kind of repeat back to you, but then actually add that insight, and then I think actually a clear and actionable kind of roadmap of what needs to happen next is so key to anybody starting that journey.
No, that's good, and we'll come on to again about a bit more about the kind of future where you see obviously your own business kind of going. But no, thanks, David. And I mean that's great, because that kind of nicely kind of brings us on to kind of Martin. But before we kind of go on, anybody, if you have any questions, please do kind of post them into the Q&A function, and we'll definitely kind of get that up and start talking to them a wee bit later. So it's great to have Martin and Jordan as well from Equator, and I know that for the one thing, and one of the reasons again why we kind of put in the Made in Glasgow series was because I remember somebody saying to me when I was at a session in Edinburgh, and it was a VC actually going, well, we don't know what companies there are in Glasgow. So, I mean, it's great to have, Martin, yourself, from Equator, which is again is, one of, I mean, alongside David, after Digital, I mean, you're one of the largest, bigger, and I'll use the word digital agency at this moment, but within Scotland, and also really kind of the kind of UK. Martin, you've obviously had a strong digital marketing background, and again, kind of the digital marketing or the marketing function in any business, right, is key for growth. And but you've now got this the digital innovation add-on, right, to your role, and I know you're spending and this is something that you've seen in recent years, is how we're starting to shift away from digital marketing towards kind of more kind of innovation. So do you want to kind of touch on just some of the things that you obviously how Equator has evolved, but also, I mean, you're spending a lot more time with international clients. So what are you starting to see from a digital innovation perspective? What is that everything? Does it encompass everything, Martin?
It's a good sort of bucket area. I mean, again, as sort of Dave was saying, there's a lot of words that get used and have multiple meanings, and the word innovation has certainly become de rigueur of the time. I mean, to put a little bit of context, kind of like you indicated, Equator has been around for over 20 years, started off as a digital agency, pure play digital agency, at a time when digital was new and exciting and all the rest of it, albeit the three owners started it just before the dot-com bubble burst. So they had a bit of a rough ride at the start. But of course, back then, and obviously I've been with Equator for more than half of its life, digital used to be the preserve of agencies and people who spent all their time doing it, and it was complex and it was expensive and so on and so forth. And the same with marketing. You needed extreme expertise to do things like search optimization and paid search and all this. But it was also, very fruitful for businesses. It was very easy to make money from digital because it wasn't the norm. It's fast forward to today, and of course, as kind of David's touched upon, the market has changed massively. You can spin up a website yourself using something like Squarespace or WordPress or whatever in a very short space of time, and you'll get something that's perfectly acceptable and it's perfectly search friendly and so on and so forth. Google Garage here in Glasgow and in Edinburgh will train you how to do your paid search and do your social marketing and all the other things. And again, it commoditizes everything that historically the kind of things that an organization like us would have done. So of course it was necessary and imperative for us to make sure that we innovated, but actually put serious investment behind it, because at the end of the day, obviously we recognize as a need for our own business to continue to evolve, but evolve faster than the market, and try and get ahead of some of those trends. And there's a lot of time that needs to be sunk into that, because there's also a lot of hype and there's a lot of fads that come along in the space, and it's really difficult, to necessarily know exactly what's going to be next. The world of digital is littered with big, important businesses and individuals making big mistakes. For example, Rupert Murdoch sinking $450 million into MySpace, selling it for $45 million. It was the biggest thing at the time. Facebook is obviously massive at the moment, and obviously Zuckerberg and co are doing very well, but did they see TikTok coming? Then did TikTok see Donald Trump coming and telling them that they're going to get potentially pinned down? So there's a lot to be done. There's a lot of learning to be maintained. And, from our business perspective, we've very much moved away, again, different to David's business in terms of, our is looking at the specific functional areas, but also trying to look at the transformative elements. The digital transformation, as you say, is a very pertinent and current term. But looking at the kind of pain points in an organization and trying to address them in a more consultative manner, with a look on how technology can solve, critical pain points in an organization, whether it's customer churn, whether it's a lack of digital strategy or having no single customer view, all these sorts of things that really, for a lot of businesses out there, that's what bugs them. And, again, that's how we're pivoting our business and looking at ways to answer those problems through technology, through strategy, through customer focus, and so on and so forth.
So it's actually, Eunice, one of our panelists is, kind of asked actually a good question, that kind of talking about, the accountability, from a marketing perspective, and, the kind of there's this the element of like return on investment for, the money you put in, there's obviously, through online, through clicks and impressions and whatnot. And it's one of the things which I think, certainly, it'd be good to get your viewpoint on this. We talk about, there's this, kind of element, we've heard this for a lot, and again, it's all buzzwords, but, we've heard this from a lot of the kind of, the younger technology companies, and that is kind of the growth hacking. Are you starting to see, when we talk about a digital strategy as well, and that kind of innovation, are you starting to see there being a greater need within the marketing team and also within a product team to really kind of get to know how these platforms operate?
100%. I mean, I sort of intimated before, when I joined Equator some 14 years ago, digital marketing, as long as you knew what you're doing, was easy. It was cheap to do, and it was very rapid turnarounds of results, and so on and so forth. It's not easy now, and to take the points in the question, accountability has become harder for digital because there's a lot of mitigating factors. Google, from a search perspective, increasingly squeezes the visibility of what you're doing. Multiple devices, mobile, tablets, phone, desktops, laptops, televisions, they split up on audiences, user journey, when historically you'd have been tethered to your one computer in the house attached to the internet. It's a lot harder to say that thing there did that sale there than it was, say, 10 years ago. And that makes it a marketer's job much harder to make sure that we meet the need of delivering a tangible ROI. So that it's a lot about, marketing needs to become more efficient. So you need to look at marketing automation. You need to be looking at analytics beyond your Google website analytics. You need to be integrating that into whatever you might be doing in, say, Facebook or LinkedIn. You need to be doing that with offline channels. You need to be, there's a greater investment needed in that piece, because the ROI is in there, and marketing, and especially through digital channels, can very much wash its face and justify its existence, but you have to work hard to make sure that is tangible and objective. And because there is some examples in contemporary marketing where offline channels and traditional direct consumer channels are actually outperforming digital, because digital in some spaces has become so overwhelmed by competition and cost and all the rest of it.
And one of the things again is is just the complexity that's happening now, again, from that perspective. So there's obviously people who are, depending upon their business, whether or not the basic is they're obviously going to get their business highlighted amongst everybody else's. But are you starting to see not sophistication, but if you're a digital marketing or even a product manager, are we starting to see the skill sets of those people within a business having to really understand data and data analysis is data now the bit that you're really going to have a handle on?
I mean, yeah, certainly for a good 5 years now, people are saying, data is where it needs to be at. I think that is partly true, not least because many businesses still don't necessarily have a good handle on it. But in all reality, it's the insight behind the data that's important. I mean, we've got many clients who've got piles of data, and getting useful, tangible outcomes from that data is incredibly hard. It might be not structured data. It might not necessarily be in one place. It might have horrible duplication in it. There's many businesses with many challenges, and they're looking to resolve those things. And certainly the investment that we've seen across our client base and in the industry in general in sorting that problem has escalated massively in the last couple of years. And I think it'll be interesting to see coming out of this whole COVID crisis, how that's likely to kind of spike even more, because of course we're all doing even more things digitally now, and we're more used to digital self-service, and we're more used to like digital sign-up, digital product management, and all these sort of things where historically we might have been, no, I want somebody to deal with that. I want to go and speak to somebody or pick up the phone or whatever it happens to be. There's mantras that have been changing. Yeah. But of course, we need to analyze all of what that means and what that kind of customer journey looks like, because of course it's a moment in time, and that's going to change again too. The efficiencies that you're going to need to drive right now as a business to be kind of digitally centric need to, again, to take the previous point, to be justifiable. And it's, right now it might get you through where we're at right now, but coming out the other side of it, it's going to need to be analyzed relentlessly. We've said, we've been doing our own webinar series, and one of the things we've said almost week to week is marketers should be the busiest they've ever been right now, because everything they thought they knew has changed. Everything they thought they knew about the customer personas, about the way that they purchase, the journey to purchase, is all gone. And it may not ever come back to the way it was. So there's that constant need to be relearning the data, looking at the insight, trying to find new patterns, but also then taking the business on that journey to make sure that the wider business appreciates both the opportunities in the data, but also the limitations, to make sure that everyone, is bought into how much insight they can get from that data, and why it's worth investing more into getting more insight out of it.
And I mean, one of the things, one of the questions we've had from Adam, and he's kind of saying is there room in the market for traditional marketing agencies, or there's an element whereby the kind of full service is still needed, or is it becoming are we needing to have that kind of specialist business that kind of looks at dare say it kind of growth hacking maybe?
I think we've grown up to be, in the time I've been at Equator, we've more than quadrupled in size as an organization, and like I say, we're one of the biggest agencies in the country and one of the biggest independent agencies in the UK, and that's great, and it's a wonderful place to be, but that has come from that kind of diversification and broadening of the client. But we recognize ourselves as the business. You can't keep going wider and wider and wider, because it actually there's too much to know now. There's across all the different sectors. We know, so for example, we target the banking sector as one of them, and we target the insurance sector. People might just lump them under financial services, but they're actually completely different. And that's just one element of it, never mind, the kind of fintech element side of things and so on and so forth. So we know we need to keep our focus. And, I have a lot of respect for what David's done with his business in terms of making it almost laser focused on a particular area, because actually, it's exactly that thing that David said about, trying to, it's a rush for the bottom. Actually, that specialism is not, saying, oh, we're a digital agency is not exciting anymore. It's not engaging, because you can spin one up of those in no time. Saying we are specific, we use our digital technologies to transform X kind of business, I think is critical. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a digital only business. At the end of the day, we invested as an organization in 999 a few years ago in terms to bring on some of those more offline side of things, of the skill sets. But still, we need to keep them airtight in a focused area, so that we've got relevance to clients. We're just saying, we do digital. It's like, well, so did they and them.
Yeah,
so I do actually think is going to be tighter. I think the lines between online and offline, I think, as many agencies have been saying, become increasingly blurred. And again, being able to track your offline and actually to make sure there's a contiguous strategy that your offline and your online looks the same, talks the same, has the same outcomes. But also, again, like I said, there's offline channels that, when tracked correctly, do outperform some online channels. And so you do need to have that sort of focus. But I think, again, to do what David's as an organization done it, and to make sure that there's a depth of knowledge, that's the thing that I think will resonate with a lot of clients. And then, for us, we're picking our battlefields in a similar way, not in the same sectors, but we're saying, right, that's where we need to make sure we are absolutely at the top of our game.
Yeah, and I think that's the bit where, I guess, and it's something which we've seen, I guess we've seen quite a bit now, is that, companies are needing, a deeper level of experience. And I know one of the things, again, looking at it from, if we kind of shift kind of thinking about kind of digital innovation within the kind of the marketing, are companies having to develop their own solutions in order to kind of grow, or is it seeing what platforms are out there and kind of I would say adopting some of the existing solutions that are available? Or do you think that companies are having to develop bespoke needs to kind of grow their when we're talking about growing their businesses, obviously it could be their their presence online, but also if it's from an e-commerce perspective, having to kind of raise their products. So I seen companies starting to create their own bespoke solutions, or is there a plethora of platforms that are out there?
There's certainly a lot of choice to work with out there, and there are enterprise level toolkits. I mean, things like Salesforce, it just grows and grows in terms of its capability every day, to the point where you actually can't even figure out what it's about anymore. But they've done very well as that piece. But you can take all the parts of Salesforce that make up that side of things, and you can kit build them off 12, 20 different platforms. Many of them are open source. Many of them are free or near free. We talk quite a lot about in our organization about headless development, in the sense where there's not necessarily a heart to a thing like a website or a piece of code, but it's a connection of APIs linking third-party systems together. And actually, there's a lot of merit in that. Obviously, you've got to be careful about how wide you take that, because, of course, these solutions are bought and sold and fly and die every day. And you could build an entire solution and then one part of it and the whole thing collapses. But again, there is certainly an argument to say you should have somewhat of a hybrid solution.
Yeah.
Again, many businesses are still sitting on very, very legacy systems, and they can't move away from them. Businesses who desperately want to step away from some old green screen system turning that system off would grind their business to a halt, and the risk is too high. But kit building some stuff on top of that is fair enough. But again, those sorts of challenges get bigger and bigger. To take the point before about making sure that marketing is and any sort of spend is justifiable and trackable, doesn't mean that the bit that you're building on top of is actually probably going to end up being bigger than the original old system in the first place. And that has its own risks associated with it as well. It really just needs, actually what it needs is somebody to deep dive and analyze it, do like a kind of solution definition, look at the risk elements of it, and but not be closed-minded, say, well, we are only doing Salesforce, we're only doing SaaS or something like that. But saying, if you're a medium-sized business, then you don't need to go blue chip, but here are the risks associated with that, and costs are less, but these are the risks. It just needs a deep analysis and a thorough understanding of both what the business needs today are and what they are going to be in 6, 12, 36 months time.
So, we've got, I'd say some, early stage, kind of businesses, obviously, in our audience today. And if they're looking for some kind of we say good kind of digital marketing kind of platforms, not necessarily to there's to obviously to monitor their growth, but I mean, when we talk about HubSpot is one of them, and also we're starting to see companies kind of bring in things like intercom, depending upon that engagement. So are you, and this kind of comes into the kind of more of the automation bit, are you seeing the, what, from an automation aspect, what tools are you seeing obviously being adopted, obviously the most, but are popular with early stage businesses?
So there's a lot of marketing automation is definitely becoming hot right now, but also even just like things like robotic process automation tool sets to allow individual parts of a process to be fixed. A lot of the big four consultancies kind of market this as artificial intelligence or machine learning. It's not really that. It can be that in some cases, but in reality, it's elaborate macros. But it's absolutely worth doing. And again, there's a role for those sorts of technologies to exist. And again, it starts in the same way. You almost need to go into business and kind of just look around it and say, well, how does it currently function? Where are the grinding points? Where are the slow points? And the scale from basic RPA through to thorough machine learning to something that's a completely software bit driven solution. And there's probably ways to do that iteratively. And again, that can be done bespoke. We've built a lot of bespoke solutions. We've got our own team that focus on machine learning and RPA, and there's definitely lots of opportunity for that, and it is going to be a massive growth sector in no uncertain terms. But again, it requires a bit of analysis. It requires an understanding of where the pain points are in the business, what the things that slow a business down, and again. We've seen a lot of interest in that, just obviously, again, during the COVID crisis when businesses have gone, well, we used to have that in the office, we had a team for that, and now they're 6 ways from Sunday, and so on and so forth. But there's still elements of theatre. There's so many clients and so many brands out there who do something that certainly looks like it's automated, like it's done, but in all reality, it's still spinning out an email in the background, and that's fine. At the end of the day, if you're seeing a thirst from your customer to have automatable services and all the rest of it, but your business, it's going to take 6-9 months to develop that for whatever reason. And there are still interim ways of going about it.
So have we seen a bit of, I know that a lot of people are thinking about artificial intelligence, and I mean, kind of one of the things, again, for, artificial intelligence, obviously machine learning, I mean, some of that's getting built into some of the tools, but is that still kind of, like, let me say kind of hype, but it's sometime into the future, or should companies now be starting to look at that automation element, when they're deciding upon looking at how to grow their business through digital platforms?
Oh, 100%. There is hype behind it, like there isn't anything in the innovation space, and certainly, we've thrown a lot of things in the innovation bin over the last few years. It's never been artificial intelligence. It's been elements of it, and in the way it's been sold. Like I said before about how process automation is often oversold, but equally, this idea a lot of people have that machine learning, artificial intelligence, if you will, can just magically take a pile of data and give you answers. That's massive oversimplification of its capabilities. But with the right tool set and with the right people in play, principally that is something it can do. And it's certainly something we've done with a number of clients in terms of trying to decipher, complicated patterns and gigabytes and gigabytes of data. It is absolutely possible to do things. And we've had scenarios where we've been able to distill with a higher degree of accuracy outcomes in, like, for example, in real estate and in hotels than their human staff who've had tens of years of experience can do. And then obviously a lot less of the time, but it still requires somebody to at least get their data in order, tidy it up, get it structured,
yeah,
trim out the fat, remove all the stuff that's just not relevant, and use some human insight and human experience to tighten that down. Then you throw it into the machine,
yeah,
as it were. And yeah, there's definitely an absolute space for it. And to underestimate what machine learning can bring to almost any business, you know, I'm not suggesting people should go out there and learn exactly how to do it, because it is, I'll be honest, it's quite mind-boggling at times, and I struggle to understand many of its concepts, and it moves at such an insane pace. You know, there's a lot of knowledge in digital that you throw in the bin because it goes out of date. Machine learning, you know, stuff we hand coded a year ago is now a click of a button, and stuff that we couldn't do 6 months ago is now possible.
Yes,
and free. So much of it is free. So it is a great time to be getting in on it and just explore the potential of it. It doesn't necessarily mean say you take on, but you, again, the only thing that's our clients who haven't taken on machine learning, it's not because they don't want to, it's because, again, data readiness, that investment in the data.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of comes on to the kind of, you know, obviously kind of, you know, the kind of last kind of, you know, kind of topics, that obviously kind of value of digitization. And I guess, you know, the kind of one things which is, you know, for any company who may or may not be, you know, kind of digital first, you know, how important is, you know, kind of building your skill set in your business, you know, I mean, when we talk about digital, we're obviously, you know, that can mean many different things, and it crosses in many different kind of functions. So, you know, kind of where, you know, for companies who are on their journey, you know, whether it's from a marketing side or even their product, you know, where should they, you know, from a I was in education, but from a learning, where should they kind of really kind of start? Should it be, you know, learning about, you know, kind of, you know, user journeys, or should they start to then thinking about, you know, kind of data? You know, what can you, if you were to advise, you know, a couple of, you know, companies, where would you both kind of start? David?
I suppose the first point I would make is that the best client relationships we have is where the client knows to ask the right questions. So actually, maybe from years ago, where digital was this kind of black box and agencies kept it, you know, arms wrapped around it, you can't get it. Actually, that kind of knowledge transference and kind of like through the partnership, the kind of learning is a key thing that we just build into everything that we do anyway, because actually, whether it's ROI on marketing or ROI and actually our engagement, it's getting the best value for the client and knowing where to fit in. So I think at a basic level, you know, literacy around digital, and depending on what department you're in, I think if you're going to go and enlist the services of a digital marketing agency, you should at least have a good understanding of, well, one, what you need, but also the terms, because I think when you procure something that you don't actually know what it's about is where not just digital, but any industry gets a bad name, because people don't actually understand what they're asking for. And then, you know, whether it is, I think to Eunice's point, you know, I don't know, if he's working with a marketing agency that can't show ROI, then I would suggest he looks for a different marketing agency, because you should be able, you know, you should, if you're spending £1, you should be at least making £1, and if you're not, there must be a reason for that. I mean, even internally, there's a number of you know, online learning platforms like Udemy. There's a lot of organisations in Glasgow alone where, you know, the juniors that we bring on, we take them through kind of outsourced kind of learning. So there's a huge amount of stuff out there. But I would suggest that depending on your role and your capacity, that you at least have an understanding of where digital fits in with your business, because, you know, it's ubiquitous. And I think, you know, for anybody in the workplace these days, we always talk about, it shouldn't even be like digital market manager, it's market manager. Digital just stand with it that you do.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I know that we've got a shortage of software developers, but I mean, we're talking here, it's not all software development. I mean, would that be a fair assumption? Do you think software is software development, or some kind of level of software development is key within the business?
I mean, it depends what you do, but I think to Martin's point about this, you know, utilisation of a lot of the platforms that are out there, I think there's two options that businesses have. Either you go down that tailored bespoke route where you build or change a system to fit in with your business processes, or you look at what's out there in the market that's, you know, maybe robust and resilient and has something that maybe does 60-70%, and then make the decision whether you want to change your business processes to fit into that, and then build a kind of, you know, decoupled system around about that. So there's always, you know, so you don't need necessarily developers to have a cohesive digital platform, but depending on the level that you're doing and the customization, there'll be some level of knowledge around how systems interoperate. And as Martin said about, you know, APIs and systems talking to each other, no longer can you, you know, this kind of monolithic big sort of structure that, you know, go and build me that, and, you know, a bit fails and it's all to pot. It's looking at what's out there, and there's lots of, you know, from you know, the kind of startup SME to enterprise level, there's a lot of platforms out there that do a lot of what you might need. So there's an element, there's a skill also in defining how that works for your business, because there's such choice out there.
So just kind of obviously only got kind of literally got 1 or 2 minutes, and again, if anybody's got any kind of questions, please do kind of put them into the kind of Q&A session, Q&A panel. But really finally, you know, you're obviously, both of you can work in across a variety of industries and kind of markets and whatever. So what would be if you were a business that was looking for opportunity, and that's obviously kind of where things, what markets do you see, or industries do you see that are still early stage, and where there's a good bit of opportunity to develop if you're developing a digital product into that sector or industry? Which one do you think would be on your number one at the moment, Martin?
Actually, I've seen quite a lot of opportunity in sort of, actually, when I say industry, I mean industrial side of the business. Again, you know, businesses that don't necessarily have a digital face or, you know, trade digitally, but there's opportunity to digitize processes and digitize the way they go about things. I had the pleasure of seeing an operation down in Irvine, a business called Booth Welsh, who is very much an industrial company, and very much making industrial parts for a number of different sectors, including utilities. And they are putting an awful lot of investment into actually digitizing their physical product, making them scannable through QR codes, and then with an iPad connected to a cloud-based system for inventory management, for identifying pain points or when something is failing. They're doing that with offshore wind farms and using digital technology in the same way that any customer-facing business would do, like a bank or a hotel. They're using the same sort of technology to look after wind farms out in the middle of the Irish Sea. And you're sitting there going, well, that's exactly the kind of thinking that you need. It's like, as to take David's point, you're not a digital business, you're not a market business, but it's looking at business going, can things that are happening in that industry work well in our way and to create us new products and services? And in their respect, you know, they're looking at clouding everything, clouding physical objects, physical machinery, and all the rest of it. And it's that I've seen that happening in their business and a number of other engineering and industrial businesses across Scotland. I work a lot alongside SEED, which is the Centre for Engineering Education Development. And again, I see a number of those businesses starting to wake up to this idea that digitization and you can digitally transform a business, and it's not about a website, and it's not about a Facebook campaign. It's about wiring these sorts of technologies into the everyday parts of my business, and actually exposing new opportunities across the business to sell the data that this product creates, or sell services that sit atop these things that the companies have been making for tens of years.
Excellent. So it's, you know, this is a topic I think, you know, we've run out of time actually, and you know, it's a topic that I know, especially in the cloud side of things, and starting to talk about, you know, into that bit. And industrial informatics is actually one of the kind of key areas that university can is involved in. Anyway, I'd just like to thank, you know, on everyone, you know, Martin, David, really appreciate, you know, your time today. we could spend a lot more time. Really appreciate giving insights and where the kind of obviously kind of markets go in both your businesses. But I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us today at our first kind of Made in Glasgow kind of session. And as I say, if you've got any questions, please do send an email address to us at the very bottom. But again, on behalf of everyone, also online today, David, Martin, thanks very much, and hope we will see everybody fairly soon again. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day.